Greetings, salutations, one and all. Welcome to your favorite weekly ritual, your favorite hockey podcast, the Ultimate Hockey Show. If you've listened to our show before, you know that we are a 1 hour weekly podcast slash broadcast slash audio cast, whatever you want to um, call us. We are the Ultimate Hockey Show based out of Winnipeg, Manitoba, the home of the first place Winnipeg Jets. Just had to get that in there before the real hockey starts again on Saturday. Although not to say that the Four Nations Cup hasn't been real hockey. It's been quite amazing, to be quite honest. We'll talk about that. Did Rob, welcome in chat. You can put your messages in. Just a quick note as well. The Jordan 411 Sports Show, episode number 53, premieres at 6:15 on the Game Time and Jordan 411 YouTube channel. We talked about the Four Nations Cup, the Winnipeg Jets, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in free agency. Programming notes out of the way, we say good evening to Red Petty. Good evening, Red. How are you?
Very good. Michael, how about you?
Very good, very good. I had a hockey game yesterday afternoon, hence why we're doing this tonight. But no playoffs begin tonight for me, too. A bit of a late night one. Bring the pajamas down to the Hockey Brawl Center in Headingley for an 8-10 puck drop between the Pembina Valley Hawks and the Winnipeg Ice. But no, and then I'm heading out to Naperville tomorrow, and then we're doing a major tournament on the weekend. So it's right in the fit of it for me. As you can see, the NHL season is kind of going to be right in the fit of it starting this weekend.
Yeah, it starts up. Are the first games on Saturday?
Yep, first games are on Saturday. Tournament ends on Thursday. Canada's playing the U.S. In case you've been living under a rock and haven't known or didn't know for the last couple of days.
Yeah.
We'll talk about how we got there in just a second. Just a quick, we have not had a show since the start of the tournament. So I figured, let's get an opening thought from you on the tournament before I give a bit of a breakdown on what's happened so far in the tournament. We can talk about different and but scenarios, how that's all played out, and then how that's going to equate for the Winnipeg Jets in the second half. So, what have your thoughts been on this tournament? And then I'll do the game by game synopsis very quickly.
It's been good. I mean, I kind of miss I miss having Russia there because it would be nice to see their top players because yeah. And I think the Czechia team or the Slovakian team, like I know you can only do so much, right? In a couple of weeks or a week and a half, whatever you have for the break. So I don't know how you could do it. Like if you'd have to have some sort of even amount of teams, right? You go from 4, you got now. Well, do you open it up to 8 back? So if Russia's good again, if there's all sorts, if they settle everything there between Russia and Ukraine, you got Russia, you got Czech Republic or Czechia, you got Slovakia. Yep. Who else?
Germany.
Germany, maybe 4 teams. You need, because then you'd see Draisaitl and company. So you'd like, but that being said, with the situation we're in, 4 teams, I like this way better than an all-star game. I saw somebody online say, rest in peace, NHL all-star game. I'm not sure if the NHL is ready to give that up yet because it's to showcase the game, right? And the fans, there's lots of interaction with kids and it promotes it locally. I get all that. That's blah, 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 blah. But for me, the hockey fan, being just hockey, that Canada USA game, by the way, I sat down, I had it on pause. So I was late coming to the game. I was about 5 minutes behind. I hit play and I'm sitting down, I'm putting down my drink. Oh, they dropped the gloves. I'm like, what? I almost dropped my popcorn. And then I saw this fight going, okay, that's good. So I scrambled, I picked up my popcorn, and I started watching again. Oh, they dropped the gloves again. What's going on? What? And it was like 3 fights in 9 seconds. I was like, what's going on? That was crazy. It was crazy. So now that we said, I've loved the tournament so far. What did you think? What do you think of the tournament? And What did you think of the start of that Canada USA game? Was that not the nuttiest start to a game you've ever for two teams that haven't played each other? This isn't like this is I don't know what you could say like Philadelphia, New York, or this isn't the Jets in Minnesota or Edmonton, Calgary in the 80s. They hate like these hate-ons for each other's teams because you play all the time and you grow this animosity. What is this? I'm stunned. I'm absolutely stunned that happened.
Rhett, it only happened in an NHL sanctioned event, I'll tell you that. If the IHF is involved, all of those guys are out.
That's
There's
true.
no
Eh?
fighting allowed, and there's
That's
no
true.
fighting. There's no fighting allowed in IHF events. So
Right.
again, am I surprised the way it started? I'm not. I'll say this: am I surprised there was a fight? No, I'm not. Did I expect 2 seconds in, 3 seconds in, and 9 seconds in? With the characters involved, probably. On the American side, but hey, the Canadians have no choice but to respond if that's the way the game's gonna be played. And
Yeah,
hey,
okay, but wait a second. But what's going on? Like I was looking on, well, I guess we wouldn't see on social media is not a good thing because we wouldn't see their
yeah,
social or we wouldn't see their posts if they're sending a text to each other. But what's interesting is the first fight was between Kachuk and was it
Hagel.
Hagel? So it's
Yeah,
between a Panther and a Lightning. And the second one is between a Senator and a
no,
Panther.
between
Yeah,
between
a
a
Senator and a
Panther
Panther.
and a
Senator and a Panther. Brady
yeah,
Kachuk and Bennett.
no,
It was
Matthew and Bennett, teammates.
no. The first one was Kachuk. Was Matthew and Hagel. The
Oh, hey,
second
okay,
the
yeah.
second
You're
one
right. You're
was
right.
Bennett with Brady. But what's interesting is that Bennett and Matthew are teammates. So they're not going to
Yeah.
fight each other, which was very interesting. You notice there was no teammates fighting each other because that would be really
No,
hard, right? That you can't. You just
you can't.
no. And then the third one was a Blues against a
Horatio and JT Miller.
yeah, so it was a Ranger and a Blues guy, but that's fine. But just interesting to me, like they must have been jabbering at each other through text messages or something. And then I saw Kachuk's skating by and chirping at guys and asking them to go and whatever. But I'm just saying, but like I think this was all in what I can tell,
Right,
unless you know others something else.
right,
This
right.
was all spearheaded by the Kachuk brothers. It was all the Kachuk brothers.
Yeah,
Just they wanted to kind of bring it and say, we're going to show these Canadians they booed America the anthem in Quebec because of Trump and because of the tariffs or whatever else, whatever Quebec doesn't like or Montreal doesn't like.
yeah.
But then they come back and they script like such. I don't know if it's a hate on or is it just that America's saying in essence, Canada, you're not the hockey icon anymore. We're gonna take over that mantle, and that's what they were sort of laying down. At least in my mind, that's
Maybe. I mean, for me, you have to remember it. This is the first best on best game between Canada and the United States of any real significance in 2016. With
yeah,
no disrespect intended to the World Championship, that in my mind has never been best on best. Just because Canada's best players and the U.S. best players either still playing in the Stanley Cup final or just recovering from the end of the season. It's
yep,
never a true best on best. I will not have that argument with anybody else that tells me the World Championship is the true best on best. The Europeans are having their top end players there because their season's long done for already a month, and they have basically whatever players they decide to have there. Whereas Canada and the US are at a disadvantage because you either get your players that were end of season or in the first round of the playoffs wanting to continue their season because they missed a lot of time because of injury and.
yep,
I think there was a lot of pent up, just genuine emotion about Exactly what you said. And oh, it is Canada, the hockey nation, the U.S. In the younger brother sort of thing. I think the Americans took that to heart. Now we understand the geopolitical aspect of it. I don't think that has anything to do with it. Um, to be honest, the players were kind of steering away from that discussion pregame, so I don't think that had anything to do with it. I have no reason but to take those players at face value. I just think this was a spirited Saturday night, a Ross Bell Center, Canada and the U.S. for North American bragging rights for that night only, as we'll get to in a minute. Um, I just think it was genuine emotion and pent up. I don't want to say frustration, but like pent up emotion. And according to people that were in the arena, there was chirping already in the warm up and
Yeah.
talking, and I think that's what happens when emotion kind of gets the best of it. And I think to the officials' credit, they let it go on, and after the third one, said that's it. They started handing out a penalty. It was to JT Miller for instigating, and wouldn't you know it, everybody stopped and played hockey. So, and it was a pretty darn good hockey game. And listen, I got my dose of meditation about, you know, how everybody feels when the Jets play Connor Hellebuck. Well, I think Jets fans that are most Canadian fans finally now understand the frustration other teams feel when
Yeah.
they see 37 in the crease. So again, that's very interesting that way. And Rich, to me, I am very happy that Connor Hellebuck is playing as well as he is in this tournament. That to me is a very positive sign for the Winnipeg Jets.
You're right, because if Canada loses, and I think the game is going to be a low scoring game, I think it's going to be like 1-0, 2-1, 3-1 with an empty netter, maybe 3-2, maybe even 3-2 in overtime. I don't think either team is going to score more than 3 goals. I just think it's going to be
Nope.
they're really going to defend well. They're all really good players, good athletes, and it's going to be the difference between a good, like the Canadians. The reason they got scored on to make it 2-1 was a bad line change. The defense went off. And then Crosby turned the puck over the offensive zone. They turned around, boom, 2-on-1 or 3-on-1, going back the other way, and they got burned. And then also Jordan Binnington, that goal that he let in, that was shot by whoever that was. That first goal. That was cheap. After McDavid scores, and that's in a soft goal. Soft. That was Jake Gensel. It was a soft goal. Man alive, you can't let that in a game where maybe you're only going to get a handful of chances to score either way. You can't let that in. So to me, Binnington and Hellebuck, that's the difference in that first game. It was Hellebuck versus Binnington. And if the Canadians lose and it's 1-0, 2-1, and Hellebuck stands on his head and the Canadians throw 40 shots at him and he wins, I like your point. I'll be sad as a Canadian citizen, but I'll be over the moon as a Jet fan because Hellebuck can play against the best and he can shut it down. So,
and listen to it, he's the best goalie in this tournament. Statistically, according to Sport Logic, he stopped 4.06 goals above expected. So, according to their analytics, he stopped 4 more goals than they haven't actually scored on the Americans. And haven't looked at the numbers closely. I would venture to guess that a couple of them are in the Canada game. I know Hellebuck robbed Morrissey very early in the game before the McDavid goal. There were a couple other chances, but second half of the game, it looked like the Stanley Cup final game. Really, not a lot of opportunities. Edmonton and Florida were exchanging opportunities, particularly in Game 7 early on, and then Florida got up late in the second period, and the Oilers didn't really have a puncher's chance in the third period because they locked it down. I thought much of the same.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I agree. There's a comment here. I don't think Canada, in my opinion, out of all the goalies that Canada had to choose from, Jordan Binnington's a good goalie. Okay, fine. He won a Stanley Cup. That was a long time ago. That was like 6-7 years ago. But in my mind, right now, the best Canadian goalie, not pedigree, the best is Logan Thompson. And he's not even one of the three guys that they picked. I would have picked personally Logan Thompson or Aiden Hill to be the starter, not Jordan Binnington. No disrespect, but in my mind, they have way better stats. They played way better this year. Their team is winning. Both Thompson and Hill's teams are playoff teams fighting for first place in their conference and in their divisions, respectively. And Jordan Binnington's playing on a team that's not going to make the playoffs. Again, I'm not in charge. I'm not a scout. I'm just saying it's a huge difference. That has been one of the big differences. And if you don't believe me, go look online with the analytics. The guys that just look at, like you're saying, analytics, look at the stats. The reason that the Americans are where they're at, a huge part of it is goaltending. So,
yeah, and that 4.06 number, Red, is based in 2 games, not 3, because Hellebuyck did not play last night.
Correct.
So that's what makes that stat even more interesting. Red, I just want to quickly run through this very quickly. Canada beats Sweden in overtime to open the tournament. The U.S. comes back with a strong third period to beat Finland. That is where we are after 2 games. In the third game, which would have been Saturday afternoon, the Finns beat the Swedes in overtime to stay alive. USA beats Canada 3-1. Yesterday in the last 2 round-robin games, Canada defeats Finland 5-3. Finns got a little dicey in the third period. We'll get to that in just a minute. 5-3 the final score, thanks to a great play from Crosby, including the Sidney Crosby empty netter. And the Swedes defeated the Americans 2-1 in the last round-robin game. Therefore, Canada in second place, the U.S. in first, Sweden in third, Finland is in fourth.
Yeah,
that is the way the standings indicated. Top 2 teams make the final. U.S. will have the last change in the game on Thursday. So,
is that because they're the higher ranked team from the round robin? Okay.
Yep, they are the higher ranked team by 1 point. So
they're considered the home team then, I guess, or the last change. Okay. And really, after Canada, like they were in control of their own destiny. So when they won on Monday afternoon, it made the America-Finland game a moot point.
You mean U.S. and Sweden? Yeah.
Yeah, the U.S. and Sweden game a moot point, which is why the Americans arrested so many. So they had first place pegged, and then the Canadians just had to win outright in regulation in order to nullify anybody.
So basically, what would have happened is if Canada game would have gone to overtime, the winner of that game would have had to have Sweden lose in regulation.
So in other words, if Canada had gone to overtime with Finland and then won, and then Sweden beat America outright, Sweden would have been in the final?
Yes.
Okay. So that's why it was so important that they
that's why it was so important, and that's why that's the benefit of the 3-2-1 system, which they instituted for the tournament along with the 10-minute overtime. Which is another question I wanted to ask you, Rich. In game 1, Sweden and Canada went to overtime. What did you think of the 10-minute overtime?
I liked it. I mean, I know why they don't do it in the regular NHL, because they got to get the game done, right? It's just like fans got to get home. People have kids at games, like teams got to get onto airplanes and get on the road. And like, I get it. Here, they're not traveling, they're staying in the city. So you make it 10 minutes. So it's good because they're trying to make it be decided by play versus a shootout. I mean, if you have to decide by a shootout, that's fine. But I understand why they go 5 to 10 minutes. So in this final game, is it going to be outright? Like there's going to be no shootout. It's considered a
play till somebody wins tomorrow.
Okay. And it's all 5-on-5, right?
3-on-3.
It's okay, 3-on-3, but 20-minute periods.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. No, that's nice. Not that there. I don't know if there will be, but okay.
No, I mean, might as well, right? Just a quick observation, Rich. I didn't ask you to do any homework prior to the show. Just an observation for me.
Yeah.
If I'm making changes for the Olympic team, I am dropping Samuel Martin-Bull and adding Logan Thompson to the roster as a goalie. I'm fine with the goaltenders then as it is. I'm also dropping the Winnipegger, Seth Jarvis, and adding Mark Scheifele. I'm also dropping somebody else on the bottom of the lineup. Maybe a Konechny type. I haven't quite decided yet. And I'm adding Mark Scheifele, Tom Wilson to the lineup for a little
Yeah.
bit of physicality and a little bit of rough and tumble in the corner, which I
Yeah.
felt like Canada missed out on in that game. On Saturday, I felt like the Canadians were being roughed around a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. You're right. You can make arguments for guys like Scheifele, Zach Hyman. Who did you just mention now? Just now? Who's the
Logan Thompson.
No. The player, the out, like the you just
Tom
mentioned
Wilson, Tom Wilson, and
Tom
Mark
Wilson.
Scheifele.
Tom Wilson. See, there's another one. Tom Wilson, like you say, for a little bit of grit to kill penalties. I like it. I see, and that's what I found, especially in that game against America. I don't know what you thought, but the first two lines, and it was also the lines weren't set up well. They're set up better. They were set up better for the last game against Finland in terms of having the right players with the right players. It was better, but I still think the first two lines seemed to be able to score, but then the third and fourth line, the third line a little bit, but there wasn't as much pop. Like that may be the difference, is how well your third and fourth line can score relative to the Americans' third and fourth line. And right now, I just think the Americans' third and fourth line are more compelling. They have more talent. They have more goal scoring ability, whatever you want to call it. And the Canadians, it's not as much. But again, you could make an argument. You could add Scheifele there and he could have looked terrible. You could add Wilson there and he could have been skated around and could have been embarrassed. And then you would have said, oh, I wish we would have picked Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart and Jarvis or whatever, right? So I don't know. You can always second guess. The superstars are there. That's the most important thing. I personally, Scheifele being on the number one center for the very best team in the league. And he's also, I don't know if you saw that, there was a top 50 players in the NHL as of today. That was right before the NHL break. I don't know if you saw that. That was
I didn't.
The Hockey News. It was a number of writers put it in and put it all together. There's only one team that has 4 players on that list, and that is the Winnipeg Jets.
Hellebuyck, Scheifele, Connor.
Hellebuyck, Connor, Morrissey, and Scheifele. And Scheifele's not 50 or 49. He's like at, I don't know, 38 or 32 or something. Yeah. Like, I'm just saying, Scheifele's the number one center in your team. He's one of the leading.
He's the number one center in all of Canada, period,
right
now.
30 goals. I mean, he's playing on the very best team in the league, and he can't make Team Canada. Come on. Again, and I'm not a homer. If I was a St. Louis Blue fan and I looked at the stats and looked at everything, I said, what's Scheifele? Why is he not on this team? I mean, Seth Jarvis, I mean, he's a good hockey player. He's not Mark Scheifele. He's not a number one center.
Well, it's interesting because we didn't see much of Seth Jarvis at all in the second half of that American game.
Well, and then even guys like, I saw Connor on America. Connor's playing like 12 minutes, 13 minutes. It's just funny. He's playing in the third line of the fourth. He was playing on the fourth line actually in one of the games for America. So, but that's because they have lots of talent, right? But again, I'm not an expert. I'm not a hockey scout. I don't know how they decide. They want maybe the third and fourth lines to be more defensive minded, and Scheifele can be challenged on that sometimes. So if he's not playing in the top 6, maybe it's not worth having him on the team at all. I don't know about that. If you put Scheifele on the third line as a center and you put him with 2 really good wingers who are defensively oriented and are good skaters and are smart hockey players, Scheifele could raise his game. He would fit in. Come on. Number one center on the number one team in the league, and he can't make Team Canada. That's all I'm going to say. For everybody out there says, oh, Rick, you're such a homer. Number one center, number one team. I think he's tied for 4th in the league in goal scoring. Your Honor, Exhibit A, I rest my case.
Here's the question. Do you take Tom Wilson or do you take Adam Lowry?
Oh, I take Tom Wilson before Adam Lowry. Adam Lowry's not good. Adam Lowry's a great hockey player, but he's not at that level. Like he's not fast enough. He would get exposed with the speed, I think. But
Tom Wilson to me is just like Adam Lowry, except Tom Wilson scores more goals than Adam Lowry.
Yeah. And he's not a centerman; he's a winger. So,
but again, same kind of deal. Where do you sit on now, Nurse?
You know what? It's funny. I am not I'm not completely sold on Darnell Nurse. And I'll say my bit, and then you can maybe respond, because I know there's a lot of people who are saying, boy, the Canadians should have picked Darnell Nurse, big defenseman, mobile, blah, 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 blah. But you know what? Last year, he had a great start, and then he faded in the second half of the season, and then he had a fairly good playoff. He didn't start off great in the first round. Him and Ceci were terrible. Somehow the Oilers made it through the first round, and then he got better as the playoffs went on. Then this season starts. He didn't play very well. The first 30 games, he was not good. Now he's ramped up his game again. He's played a lot better the last 30 games. So he's very... So is that because of injuries? Is that because he wasn't feeling well? Is he not got the right partner with him? I don't know. But I just wish I'd see a little bit more consistency with Darnell Nurse, because when he's great, he's very good. He's tough. He's mobile. He's smart. He moves the puck well. He can skate. He can make a good first pass. He can play well in front of the net. He can kill penalties. He's a guy that can do everything. And he's big. He's like 6'2", 6'3", 220, 230 pounds. So I'm saying he's a big cat. It's all great. But if he doesn't play that way, if he doesn't play consistently, it's sort of like Pierre-Luc Dubois. He was frustrating in Columbus. He was frustrating for the Jets. He was horribly frustrating for LA. And now he gets traded to Washington for a goalie on his last legs to basically take the salary away from us, please. We made a huge mistake signing this guy to 8 years at $8 million a year, or $10 million a year, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So now he's playing okay, but he's on a good team. But will he consistently play that way? I don't know. Pierre-Luc Dubois, when he's at his best, he's fantastic. But he's not always at his best. And I don't know why that is. Some guys, they just bring it every night. And some guys, it's kind of... So I'm that way with Nurse. How about you? Do you think Nurse should have been on this team?
Pardon me?
You think Nurse should have been on this team? I'm kind of No,
for exactly the reasons you laid out.
Okay.
Too hot and too cold.
I've liked that Thomas Harley kid from the Stars. He's played really well. He's
really well for a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
Can I just give a Josh Morrissey appreciation moment?
Go ahead.
Wow. Josh Morrissey, very good.
Yep.
Second pair with a future Winnipeg Jet, maybe in Colton Parayko. Are you watching, Chevy?
He's not.
Are you watching, Chevy?
Very good. He played very good in that first game. And then in the second game, when Makar couldn't play, he was king. He was like number one on the power play, puck mover. Can I tell you something? Josh Morrissey now, he is in his prime. He's 28, 29 years old. This is prime from 28 to 32, 33. These 5 years, he's at his best. Just like Scheifele, Connor, Ehlers, Hellebuck. That's why they got to win a cup in the next 3-4 years, because then after that, it's going to start to go like this. But Morrissey, he's not big, but he's smart. He's as good as any defenseman for any team would want him in your number one pairing.
Correct.
Now, with DeMello, I like him. The Jets have him. The Jets play him with Morrissey. They're a good pairing. I still think in general, for a first pairing, they're a little bit small, but they're smart. So how that plays into the playoffs when guys are running you and you don't have as much time and space, we'll see.
I think Thursday night will be a prime example a little bit of how they're able to react to that.
In what way?
Well, just for me, American fortune. I don't think they give a lot of time and space again. I think 1 or 2 goals decide this thing, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 if you want to add an empty netter. look at there was not a lot of space in the neutral zone in the second and third period of that game on Saturday, and
Yeah.
the Americans got one bounce late in the second period, a Canadian misfortune, and they got a gift of a goal to tie the game. Listen, you could have played that game, in my opinion, till 2 in the morning, and I don't think Canada was trying that hockey the way the Americans were playing. On the flip side, the Americans got some bad news in the form of Charlie McAvoy won't be playing.
Yes, I want to talk
Petit,
about that. McAvoy will not be playing, and he's been, you could argue, their very best defenseman. So
yeah,
who's coming in for McAvoy? That'll be Jake Sanderson then?
yeah, Jay Anderson would come in. They did send Quinn Hughes to Boston, but Quinn Hughes can only play in the event of one more injury. So,
Okay, so if somebody before Thursday night, let's say, got injured in practice, got hit by a puck and
yeah,
got a concussion or something, then he could come in and play.
yeah.
Okay.
Same as the Harley situation, replacing Shea Theodore. I also think too, in a lot of Shea Theodore was fight, and it's Canada a bit of time to get their feet underneath them. But to finish my point on Josh Morrissey, I think he's Canada's third best defenseman right now. Agree or disagree?
After Makar and Taves?
After Makar and Taves, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, maybe a fourth if you want to throw Shea Theodore into that list.
Yeah. But we haven't really seen a lot of Shea Theodore because he got injured like
Right, right.
early in the game.
We haven't seen a lot of Shea Theodore in a Team Canada scenario. We've seen a lot of Shea Theodore with the Vegas Golden Knights, but um, certainly there remains to be a lot to be desired. We'll see. This is a great warm up, in my opinion, for Milan Cortina Italy Olympics next year, and the NHL did announce that in 2028 there will be a full fledged World Cup of hockey happening in February with a minimum of 8 teams. So
Okay.
some of your suggestions
Yep.
for teams to be added might be coming true. And I think that's going to be a really great tournament. And I think this sort of um, squeeze the appetite, if you will, for more best on best hockey. And trust me, it was a lot better than that basketball that I watched on yesterday or the Sunday. Um, like what was that? They weren't even defending. The slam dunk competition to me was meh. The skills night was meh.
Oh,
Canada
okay.
US NBA skills night. I know what was more entertaining for me and probably most people, but
Okay.
and it also did seem like they're going to do an all-star game next year before going to Italy, and then it's
Okay.
going to be potentially a rotation of 4 nations, World Cup, and Olympics with an all-star game every 4th year. So who knows? I think the NHL found something. I was not a fan of this February sort of tournament, the way it was scheduled, but it wound up making a lot of sense. NFL just finished, NBA's an All Star break. Their game is broken as far as trying to attract an audience. For me, it was TNT. No disrespect to them, they're an NHL broadcast partner, but it was more about their legacy and losing the NBA All Star rates than it was actually about the actual All Star game. When one of
Okay.
your lead players goes on Leeds television network and tells them that he's not playing in the All Star game because of an injury. Um, Suit yourself. Not a lot of fun, but
Yeah.
that's why for me hockey ruled the week this week, and I'm very excited to see. Um, I'm very excited to see the Jets back in action. I heard an interview with Adam Lowry today.
Yeah.
Um, Lowry said it was possible, but he was in the lineup for Saturday. Not expecting Mason Appleton to play, and we'll see if Connor, Hellebuck, and yeah, Morrissey, Connor is 4 of them right in the tournament.
No, three.
Three.
Hellebuck, Connor, and Morrissey. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if either of them are in the lineup. Particularly Morrissey and Connor. We'll see if they get Saturday off. for travel purposes and what have you after getting back. We'll see. I would fully expect Eric Comrie to play on Saturday. I think that's about as close to a slam dunk as you can get. And
I don't believe those guys are going to fly back to Winnipeg on Thursday night or Friday morning. They're just going to go straight to St. Louis.
yeah. So I don't know if they're going to play. I just did depend if they come out of the game tomorrow without any type of injuries. I did notice that the Moose called up Capo Katinen today, just so they could have a practice goalie, as per the rules of the Four Nations face-off.
Yeah.
And then, as such, that sent Thomas Milic from the ECHL, Norfolk, to the Manitoba Moose to be Dom DeVincentis' backup. And DeVincentis won the Moose a game on Sunday afternoon. So that's basically the rundown of where things are. Team Finland and Team Sweden, their players are already on their way back to their respective NHL teams. It was interesting to note the Vancouver Canucks have called up both goalies from the Abbotsford Canucks. So we'll see what's up with that with Thatcher Demko and company. Demko left the last game prior to the break with, you guessed it, yet another injury. So we'll see. But that seems to get hurt every week.
Yeah.
The reason that is of note is that is the potential first round opponent for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
They currently occupy the second wild card spot. So, with all the Four Nations tournament, I'll ask you for your tournament pick at the end of the show. What excites you when we do that back to hockey? Like I said to you at the end of last week's show, I think there's going to be some business done this break. And other than O'Connor signing a 2-year contract extension with Vancouver today after being acquired in the Marcus Pettersson deal for in the Pittsburgh deal, it's been crickets business wise. Are you surprised?
I am, but there's been no, like, they haven't had to follow a hiatus or anything with no. They've been free to do whatever sort of that they've wanted to do.
Yep.
Okay. Because I agree with you. I'm not so much for the Jets. You and I have talked about the Jets. I don't think the Jets need to do anything, and I wouldn't, because I wouldn't mortgage their future. They have a very good team. Other teams will be trying to compete with the Jets. I don't think the Jets need to compete with anybody. They can make some inquiries, and if it makes sense, maybe with some existing players, if they want to ship out, I don't know, Heinola and somebody else to bring in Colton Parayko, but depends. Like, you're going to ship away Heinola to get Parayko as a UFA, and he gets here, and then he turns around and he signs back in St. Louis next year for 5 years at $10 million a year. Like, I don't want to trade away young players to get guys that come here for a month and then they're gone. So to me, that's no recipe for long-term winning, especially in a market like ours. So I'd like to see the Jets do nothing unless something really makes sense. I don't want them trading away any more first-round draft picks, in my humble opinion. But that being said, I'm surprised, to your point, we haven't seen more. I would have thought for sure certain teams, especially teams around the edges, like the Avalanche, are one game out. Now, mind you, they did that trade for Rantanen out to bring in those pair of guys from Carolina. But that wasn't so much a trade to get better. It was a trade to have to handle the situation you had with a pending unrestricted free agent who wasn't willing to sign for what you were offering for him to sign. So I get it, but like I'm expecting teams like Edmonton, Dallas has done a little bit, Colorado, Vegas. Well, Vegas did a little something. Vancouver, and then maybe Florida, the Lightning. You're right. I'm expecting more, and I'm expecting some of these teams that are out of it, that have no shot. Like the Rangers have been talking for how long have the Rangers been talking about? Yeah, we got to make some changes in our room. How long has that been? Since Christmas? Even before Christmas? Yeah. And they did one deal. for JT Miller.
Yeah, and they got Arthur Kaliev on waivers from the LA Kings.
Okay, that's okay. Picking up a guy in waivers, that's pish posh. That's whatever. I'm just saying, I'm expecting some of these teams that want to make some changes to be putting their guys out there and saying, hey, who wants this guy? We're willing to we want to change our room. We want to change the makeup of our team.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen it. So I don't know. Like it's a good point, because you wonder, is it because they're afraid to kind of come on too strong before the trade deadline, that the trade deadline puts more pressure on the teams that want to do something, be willing to spend more in order to get your asset? That could be. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it on the Rangers? The Rangers aren't going anywhere. They can wait, right? They don't, like, if they want to trade, for example, Chris Kreider, they don't have to push him out there now, because they know maybe if they wait until right before that first week of March, maybe they can get a first rounder. Maybe right now they're only being offered a high second rounder.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that going on.
I think so too. I mean, nobody's going to come out and say it, but yeah.
So let me ask you this, Rich. You think the Rangers are done?
No. I think teams, I think is going to do stuff to get rid of players. It's going to be St. Louis. It's going to be the Rangers. Well, Philadelphia's already done something big. I think Philadelphia could do more.
Rasmus Ristolainen, send them this way, please.
Yeah, I think the Sabres could do something big. I think the Sabres are so close. I can't figure them out. They should all. I don't know if it's because they don't have a good goalie or what. The coach is not. I'm not sure what it is. They have so much talent on that team that they still can't put it all together. So maybe they just have to change the makeup a little bit. But I could see the Sabres doing something big. Yeah. There's some teams right in the bubble, and then the Flames. I could see the Flames. They're saying, "Oh, we're not going to trade Nazem Kadri. We're not going to trade Uyghur." Yeah, okay. Blah 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 blah. They say that, and then suddenly, oh, we got an offer we couldn't refuse. It's okay. It's a shocker.
Right. What a smoke screen.
Yeah, sort of like when they're in the draft, right? We found him at the 38th pick. Oh, we never expected him to be there. What a shock. We had him ranked way higher on our ranking board than at 38 or whatever it is. So I think there's some teams that are ready to move guys, but I think they're not going to move a guy that they don't think they've gotten top value of, and they can push it right up against to the trade deadline. Whereas a team that wants, like if a team wants Chris Kreider, they want a guy on the power play in front of the net, playing on their second line on the wing, and they want that guy, they'll be willing to pay the price. I don't think there's guys willing to pay that full price that those teams want.
Can I rephrase my question then?
Sure.
What I meant when I asked, are the Rangers done? I meant, do you see them as a playoff team?
They are not a playoff team. They are not getting into the playoffs.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah, no, that's the question. That's the question that I was intending to ask, but I think you kind of answered when you said they need to make more moves to better themselves for the future. I believe the only way the Rangers can get into the playoffs right now is the wild card, and I don't know if it's worth it for them to do that.
No, that window is not open. The window's open, I think, for the Senators. So the Senators are another team that might actually do something, because they have lots of prospects. They have lots of draft picks. They have lots of good young players. They may want to bring in another one or two veterans, maybe one on the front line and one on the back end, to assist their team to be that push to get into one of the wild card spots and then make it into the playoffs and play against Toronto or against the Panthers. That would be pretty exciting.
Really quickly here, I'm just looking, by the way, the Senators currently in the first wild card spot. They are 4 points back of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they are 6 points back of the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are 3 points, behind the Florida Panthers, and have 2 games in hand. Do you think the trade deadline is going to get saturated by false narratives? Or not false narratives, that's the wrong word, but false hope. Do you think there's going to be some teams that are going to say, oh, we're 3 points back in the East as an example. We can't move on from our dies. We're going to hang on to them. Is that a disservice? Like, are too many teams going to be overvaluing their ability to make the playoffs? And subsequently, that's going to hold up the trade deadline?
That's a very good question. That is a very good question, because you're right. As soon as a team says that, does that hardcore self-evaluation, says we are not making the playoffs this year, we are not a playoff team, then they immediately change focus. Then they become aggressive and start putting their players out there and start making phone calls or start answering their phone calls in a different way.
See,
that changes everything.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm going to pick up my point after you're done.
No, I was just going to say that changes everything. And maybe to your point, to feed into what you're thinking, is all it takes is one team, right? Like, I'm just saying, just for example, everyone's kind of, like I said, it's strange. We haven't seen more action. So all it takes, in my mind, I think, is, let's say the Rangers just say, that's it. We're done. We're having our bake sale. All our cakes and cookies are on the table. Let's go. Yeah. And once they start going, if that dam bursts, let's say on the Rangers, or the dam bursts on Philadelphia, or the dam bursts on the Sabres or Calgary, you name your team that's on the bubble there, or even Vancouver for that matter. As soon as that happens, then everybody's going to be jumping in on that, because people are going to be like, oh, they're going, like, and I want to get, and because there's only going to be so many suitors and so many guys that are willing to push out first round draft picks for certain players. So if you think you have this big asset, if you hang on to him too long, other teams are going to push their first round draft pick to somebody else to get their guy, because your guy's not on the table, right? So it's
or you overvalue your entire process, and then when you want to move somebody, there's nobody left to move, because nobody has any pieces left to move,
or that, right? Or
to acquire.
Nobody wants your guy because there's no more assets out there to trade for him, right? Because they've all gone somewhere else. Yeah.
Like, for me, Rick, this is the false narrative, okay? The Philadelphia Flyers are second last, okay? Second last in the Eastern Conference right now at 55 points.
Yeah.
The wild card cutoff is the Detroit Red Wings at 61. That is a 6-point differential, okay? People say, oh, 6 points. That's not a lot. But Rick, when I tell you you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and potentially 9 teams to jump over to get into the playoffs, it's just not realistic, even though you sit back.
Yeah.
Like, especially if one team goes 5-5-1, then that's 10 games. You're gonna go 4-5-1. 5-5-2 or whatever in your 10-game run. Nobody's going to be making up ground on anybody if everybody basically did the same kind of roundabout record in a 10-game run. An 8-2 run, such as what Ottawa's done on twice, that is why they're in the position that they're in. 5-5-1 or 4-4-2. Sorry, 4-4-2. Can't do math, but adds up to 10. But this 4-4-2, 6-4 roundabout roulette about thinking about getting into the playoffs ain't gonna move you anywhere at the end of the day. There's only so many games and only so many 10-game segments left. And we're in about 2 and about a quarter segments left, 23 to 25 games. That's not an awful lot of time to make up 6 points. So something better be reevaluating their scenarios before the trade deadline, and they have deep regret about hanging on somebody that they could get pretty significant value for, depending on the team and depending on the player. And yes, I'm looking at you, New York Rangers. You could retool that thing pretty quickly if you move the right players. I'm not saying you need to move JT Miller because you just acquired him, but a guy like Chris Kreider for me would have some value. Some of those younger defenders would have some value. Maybe you move a veteran backup goaltender in Jonathan Quick for somebody looking like looking for a backup goalie.
Yeah.
I mean, all options are all options are on the table. As long as you stop deceiving yourself that you're in the race when you're really not. I
Yeah.
understand the Rangers might be a bad example, 3 points bad, but if Philadelphia realistically thinks they're going to be in the playoffs 6 points bad and 9 teams to jump over to get to the first wild card, it ain't happening. And all you need to do is you need to look at their last record. Do they have a run of 7-2-1 in them, or 8-2-1, or 9-2-1 in them? Chances are they are where their record says they are, because they don't have that consistency and that ability to rattle off a 9-2-1 run, 10-2-1 run, something of that nature. Something the Jets have done very well, hence where they are in the standings. Heck, they have. I think it's now 3 different 8-team winning streaks within one calendar year. First time in its history, they'd won for number 9 Saturday in St. Louis. So I don't know. GM, stop lying to yourselves. Make the trade deadline interesting. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
How do we think the Winnipeg Jets are going to do this week? They're playing in St. Louis on Saturday. Hold on, did I pull the schedule up? They're home. Then I think they're home for
one game against San Jose. So, and then that's our show. Well, that's our show on Monday. If we go on Monday, there's only one game between now and next week's show.
Yeah, so we will be on Monday next week. I have a playoff game on Tuesday. So
okay, so they're going to play St. Louis. They're going to win in St. Louis, even if Comrie plays. I don't know who's going to play, but even if Comrie plays, they're going to win. So. Yeah. And I think in my mind, unless they're injured, Morrissey and Connor are going to play. They're going to play because they're there. They don't have to travel halfway across the world. They're in Boston. What is it to fly from Boston to St. Louis? That's like a 1 hour.
Not a lot. Not a lot. It's not like going to Boston to LA or somewhere.
No, they could jump on a train or on a school bus and get there in a couple hours. So that's. But Hellebuck, you're right. They may decide to give him a rest, although he's had a long gap here now because he played on Saturday and now he's not playing till Thursday. Saturday afternoon.
There should also be that discussion. Who are you pitching, Canada or the U.S.? What's the score?
Okay. You're going to put me out there first, eh?
Yep.
I'm going to do like you. I'm going to sit right on the fence. This is what I'm going to say. I'm Canadian. I love my Jets, but they're made up of players from all around the world. And so when Canada plays in a tournament, I cheer for Canada, even though there may only be a handful of players or no players from the Jets who play on Team Canada. So that being said, well, there's going to be Josh Morrissey, but I'm just saying, I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be very defensive minded. I think it's going to be close checking. I don't think they're going to want to make mistakes. They're going to play lots of kitty bar the door. I think they're going to do lots of getting at the center ice and dump it in and forecheck. They're going to try and get McDavid on squirts here and there through. But I just think it's going to be a very tight defensive game. I think it's going to be no more than 3-2 or 3-1. Could go either way, but I'm going to go Canada. I think Canada's going to win 3-2. And that might even be an overtime goal. Again, will it be Sidney Crosby like in Vancouver in 2010 was that, I think, or 2011? Was that 20? Yeah. I don't know, but could be that. And if they don't win, then I hope probably Hellebuck will be the difference, but I hope Hellebuck's the difference because then that'll look really good for the Jets. And if they lose, if the Americans lose 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, well, Hellebuck won't be the whole cause for that. He'll have let in 3 goals, but whatever. It's still not. I don't think the Americans or the Canadians are going to lose 8-1. That final is not going to be like that. It's going to be tight. It's going to be because somebody makes a mistake on a line change. Somebody coughs up a puck in a bad place. Goalie lets in or plays the puck funny behind the net, then it goes off a skate, goes in front of the net, wide open shot. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be marginal separation between who wins and who loses, in my opinion. How about you?
I'm going to have fun with this one. I'm going to say USA 2, Canada 1 in double overtime.
Double overtime. Wow. Well, and Hellebuck
Even,
is the difference.
even though at 3-on-3, I put it just the double overtime. But
Wow. Hellebuck will be the difference then.
how about will be the difference? And for the heck of it, let's do a Matthew Tkachuk overtime game-winning goal. Just to
Oh,
agitate the masses.
You have to pick a Chuck, eh? Okay, fine.
Yeah. Anyway, that is our show for this week. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next Monday, 5 p.m. A reminder, we are 2 hours and 10 minutes away from puck drop in Headingley. Game 1, Pembina Valley Hawks. I know what a bit nice. You can watch that one over on Game Time TV. For Red Petty, I'm Michael Justin. Thank you so much for watching the Jordan 411 Sports Show episode number 53 premieres in about 16 minutes. So you can watch it on the Game Time TV YouTube channel or the Jordan 411 YouTube channel. For Rick Petty, Michael Justin, we'll talk to you next Monday. Go Canada, go Jets. What a week for hockey. We'll be back to talk about it when we come back next Monday here on Game Time. Good night from Winnipeg.